Hey guys, this is JJ with Express Workshops. This week we're going to create our own custom highlight or catch light for our photographs inside of Photoshop. Okay, let's create custom highlights or catch light, as they're called, in our portraits in Photoshop. Okay, what I want to talk about first is what exactly I'm talking about here. If you look at this photograph, I've used this photograph before in tutorials. I took this picture for this young lady for her senior portrait. And when I shot this on location, I had a softbox there, but on camera I had just a regular external flash that was right on my camera. And the highlight or the catch light that you get from that external small source is just a little pin light that you see here in her actual eyes. Now, actually, if you really study this, the big light that's right there, that is the softbox, and then this little pin light was the actual external flash. Now, if you want to have some fun, sometimes if you're like I go with my wife to the makeup section of Walmart or Target, and I look at those photographs and I always try to find out what kind of modifier that they used whenever they took the picture. And if you look at the photograph there, then you can pretty much see what modifier they were used, except for what we're going to do, which is we're going to change that look of the modifier so that we can enhance the portrait that we're doing. So instead of going this little pin light that we have that are highlighting her eyes or a catch light there, we're going to create our own custom highlight. And the way we're going to do that is that we're going to do it by creating our own custom brush that we can just use and stamp inside of there. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to go ahead and get my brush defined. So let's do that, and I want to kind of make it look like a softbox. So I'm just kind of guessing with my marquee tool here, my selection tool, about that shape for the actual softbox. Now I want to make this so that it's going to look correct when I do it. So if I did a square like that, it would make the highlight just flat on a round surface, which is the eyeball. So I want to make sure that I get a little bit of distortion in there. So what I want to do is go up to select at the top of the page here, and then go to transform selection. And then what I'm going to get is this little icon here at the top so that I can warp this actual selection. So I'm going to click that, and I'm going to pull these little handles out so that I can kind of bend it into the shape that I want this to be. So I've got this box here, but now as I push the check mark here, you can see that now it's got a curve in it like it would on the actual eyeball. So I've got my selection made. I want to go ahead and create another layer here so that I can do this on top. I can fill that if I want to. And I just want to go ahead and fill that with black. So I can go ahead and change my foreground color to black and then control backspace to fill it. And then I can deselect. And one of the things that I want to do is I want to make sure that this actual little brush here has just a little fade to the bottom of it, because there might be something in front of the actual modifier, like the photographer themselves, or there just might be something there and it just doesn't give that just square look to it. You'll kind of see what I'm talking about once I go ahead and apply this. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to go ahead and just add on that layer, a layer mask. I'm just going to use my regular brush tool here, and I'm just going to find a nice soft brush, and I want to make a large. Let me make sure that this is all off. I've got my pressure sensitivity set up for my tablet. And on this mask, I'm going to just go ahead and just make a little fade in there. And I'm going to click that until it's faded about like that. So you can kind of see how that's starting to look more like a highlight that you might see. Now, the cool thing about this is that you could create any shape that you wanted. Let's say that you were using a some sort of an octabank or something. You can go ahead and make that shape. If you were wanting to simulate that it was a window light, if the lighting was right and you weren't outside, then you could make it like a window pane. You could split this down the middle so that it looked like it was an actual window pane. All right, now that I've got this shape the way I want it, I'm going to right click on my layer mask and go ahead and apply this layer mask. And then I want to go ahead and define the brush. So I'm just going to go ahead and select that. Once that's selected, I will go to Edit and then down to Define Brush Preset. And I really don't have to name it anything. You can if you want. I'm just going to say OK. And I need to go to my brush preset. So now I have mine over here in my like where my layers palette is. And if you don't have yours there, you can go to Window and then down to Brush, and that will go ahead and get this to show up. And once I'm in here, I'm going to go ahead and click my brush preset button here, and that's going to show me the brushes that I want. So if I look down at the bottom of this, I should see right down here, you can see that that is my brush that I have. So when I click that, now I've got my custom brush that I want. Let me go ahead and close this dialog box. And you can just get rid of this actual thing because we don't need this anymore, this brush that we created. And we're back to my photo here. Let me clean this stuff up so we can see. So now as you can see, my brush here is pretty darn good size, so we don't want it that big. Now the first thing I want to do is get in here close. I want to make sure I have both of her eyes in the frame as close as I possibly can. So I'm going to just mark here around. That's where I'm going to be. Okay, good enough. I can just move it back and forth. All right, so now I've got my brush. I'm going to go ahead and put it on a layer. I'm going to add a new layer because I want to paint on a separate layer than my background so that I can control the opacity. So I'll go ahead and load my brush again. And now I can go ahead and resize it so that it's going to be a believable size within her actual eye. So I can kind of line this up and get the size that I want. And I think right there. And I'm actually going to go ahead and go over part of my actual highlight that's there because that's a good indication of where the light source is coming from. I just want to enhance that and make that my own custom catch light. So I'm going to go ahead and change white to my foreground color, and I'm just going to click once on there, and you can see I've got that catch light. Now, one of the things that you'll see is like, wow, that looks totally fake. Well, that's why we have it on its own layer, and we can change that layer. So let me go ahead and get this other one here. I'm going to do the same thing right about there. And then let me back out and we'll take a look at that. Now, like I said, that looks totally fake and kind of scary looking actually. But if we take that layer and we take it 100% or take it down to 0 and then just bump it in to about there, and then we get out so we can take a look at it. Now we've taken those eyes and we've actually created a really neat sparkle effect. It really makes the eyes shine, and really that's the kind of look you would get if you had a softbox in really close. It really brightens those eyes up. Let me do the before and after. Here's the before with the little pinhole lights there, and the after with the actual custom highlights or catch lights. Now that might still be a little bit strong, so let's just bump that down a little bit. But you can do this to your liking. Maybe right there is going to be a little bit more believable. But as you can see, it changes from that to that. And let's back out, take a look at the portrait, and it really makes her eyes really glow. Let's look at it one more time, the before and the after. Okay. So that is our tutorial for this week. I hope that you found this useful. One thing to keep in mind, like I said, you can go in there and actually use this technique and do any shape you want. Even if you want to have some fun and maybe do like a ring light or something custom shape, like I said, an octabank, or any other type of modifier that you would use for photography, you can go ahead and put that in after the fact. All right, make sure that you subscribe to my channel. Make sure that you hit that thumbs up if you like this video. Share my video as much as you can. I am starting to get a lot more response and a lot more people looking at my videos, so that's encouraging. But tell everybody you know, you can get new Photoshop video here every week. And I will see you next week with a brand new video. Thanks a lot.